Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Sports World Redux. I'm Jimmy Young in the chair, the host chair. Usually we have under 18-year-olds in the host chair, but deciding what the heck. I really wanted to do a program with Phil, and we've done this. And Phil Castanetti from Sports World is here, and we're now joined by one of Phil's business partners in the fish business, because Phil does more than just memorabilia. He's Dave Shaw. He's a former NHL hockey player in the decades of the 80s and the 90s. He played 769 games for 6 different teams, including the Bruins. Let's get these totals down right. 41 goals, 153 assists, 194 points, but the biggest one, the 906 penalties in minutes. And Dave, thank you so much for coming in.
Jimmy, my pleasure being here.
Isn't it funny that all the guys that are the tough guys in the NHL, and you know a lot of them because I've seen a lot of them, some of the softest spoken, nicest guys ever.
You know, the toughest guys are probably the nicest guys.
Why is that, Dave?
On the near board, works it far side.
A very nice person. That's Phil.
You own a seafood business. Talk a little bit about the seafood business, and how does a guy from a hockey background get into the seafood business and then drag this guy along with you?
Well, I was living in South Carolina for the last 10 years, and I was looking for an excuse to go back to Boston. I always loved being here, a lot of good friends here, and so Phil actually came up with the seafood idea. His in-laws are in that business, and we're making a small wholesale company out of moving seafood. So
there you go. I think we actually looked at a few videos of you, and isn't the internet great, by the way? That you can
YouTube is horrible.
No, YouTube is
It
great.
lies. Look at that. It's horrible.
That wasn't really you then.
No,
So you're telling me that's somebody else that says Shaw?
Yeah.
Now, you know, doesn't it hurt when you get smacked in the face in this thing?
You try not to get smacked in the face. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't a Terry Riley, someone who wanted to lead with their face and just do whatever they had to. I was more of a strategic fighter.
There you go. And you always were there to protect the best player on your team because that's part of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And that wasn't my defined role by any means. It just back then you just did it when you had to do it. And
Yeah.
like now, each team has one player that basically does that job.
Is that good or bad? You're a hockey fan. Is that good or bad for the game, having that enforcer on the team?
I think there should be more than one.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. And I'm of the opinion on the other side saying, I wish they got rid of it, but not get rid of it. Just throw the guy who fights out, the instigator out.
Yeah,
like a red
fighting's a
card
part
in
of
soccer.
hockey.
I understand
Instigating
it's part of it, hockey.
in-
and you're not
in-
going to get rid of it. You're not going to get rid of it.
You can't get rid of
All
it.
right? Because you can have fights. They have fights in baseball. They have fights in basketball. It's an intense, emotional game played at the highest levels. And I'm not that much of a weenie to just say, I know it's not going to exist. It's going to exist. I just sometimes find fighting for the sake of fighting, which it used to be like war, didn't make a lot of sense to me. I love the game of hockey. The skating and the checking and,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And a lot of people think you're the best athletes. You agree with that?
Well,
Hockey players?
I think we're up there.
Yeah.
Just the thing with hockey, it's you're playing 82 games and it's a contact sport. It's not physical, not like football where it's every shift is contact, but there's quite a bit and there's a lot of games.
Yep, absolutely. And so how did you get to know this guy?
Through mutual friends from the Bruins. He's good friends with Dave Reed, and I was friends with Dave, and we kind of met through.
Dave Reed
Dave
used
Reed.
to play for the Maine Mariners. I definitely know
did.
David Reed. Oh, no, I totally, and great guy.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a name I have not heard in a long time. And, I spent 11 years in Portland, Maine, when the Maine Mariners played up that way, and got to know a lot of guys that came through both the Flyers and the Devils organizations, and then ultimately the Bruins. So Milbury was a coach up there.
Dave Reed had a memorabilia shop back in Toronto, or a card shop in the late
that's
80s.
right.
And I had met him one time on a trip, up to Toronto, and, we hit it off. And then he got traded to the Bruins, and we ended up, he moved into my house, and from that, you meet different players, and
You've got a
one
great
thing leads to
Rolodex,
another.
Phil, believe it.
I do.
I know you know. I know you do.
He does.
Okay. Let's talk about, we talked a little bit about who's hot and who's not, and, how a piece of memorabilia becomes, a hot item. Does hockey wearables, are the shirts and the sweaters, are they the ones that seem to maintain value? I mean, everybody knows an Orr shirt, come on, it's like priceless.
Yeah, game-used items right now is probably the best thing in the hobby. Anything worn by a player, used by a player, you know, sticks, skates,
Underwear,
jerseys.
jocks, T-shirts,
Exactly.
yeah, I understand.
You know, anything. I mean, mouthpieces, anything that a player
Wait,
uses.
hang a second. You mentioned a mouthpiece. You've sold a mouthpiece of somebody?
I actually have, but
Whose
you know,
mouth?
let me tell you a better story. That at the Boston Garden auction back 15 years ago, they auctioned off Cam Neely's mouthpiece, and the lady behind me bought it, and it was like hundreds of dollars.
Wow. Isn't
So
that
I mean,
something?
there's a home for everything.
Yeah. And you mentioned you got a lady. Women seem to be bigger collectors of hockey memorabilia than any of the other sports as far as females in it. I mean, I see more.
I would say, yeah, hockey. You know,
Where are the
especially
jerseys.
the older hockey players too. I mean, the Stanley Cup guys from the 70s are more popular now than they were 25, 30 years ago when they were playing, because the Bruins have never won a cup since then. And you know, everybody loved Bobby Orr, Derek Sanderson. It was such a likable team, and you know, they were all characters. Jerry Cheevers. I mean, they were just, one was crazier than the next, and
Gary
you know.
Doak, I can name them all. Even Rick Smith.
one of the nicest guys in the world.
I think you introduced me to Rick Smith.
Yeah,
a
Rick's
couple
a great
years back.
guy.
I know he's a friend of yours. Dave, who did you admire when you played? Who was someone in the game during the time when you played? And I guess, you know, obviously everybody talks about Gretzky this and Gretzky that, but was he the guy, or was it somebody else that you really admired?
Well, fortunately, I got to play with Mark Messier a little bit with the Rangers, only the 2 months, and he was just he brought a different aura to the game, like that I'd never experienced with New York. When he came, he brought his family, his age, and everyone just came to the Rangers, and he had like a little posse behind him. But he was a great leader, and he's one of the best players I play with. I've got a lot of more respect for Adam Oates. I always thought Adam was a one-dimensional player, just strictly offense. He was really good in his own end. He was a good two-way player, just I think because he had good hands, good hockey sense. And obviously Ray Bourque too. Ray was just offense, defense. He was everything, and he was a physical player that played a lot too.
Yeah. Oh,
He logged a lot of minutes.
and a great guy.
Yes, he is.
Raymond's a great guy. All right, we are talking with Dave Shaw and Phil Castanetti here on Sports World Redux. I'm Jimmy Young in the host chair. We're going to take another break now, and we're going to have another visit to Bibbs Sanctuary. It's a trip down memory lane for Bibbs, and one of the most famous moments in baseball history involving one George Brett.
I had to branch out into something
So
else.
the
So
first
what's it
30th
going to be?
birth-
Uniforms, bats, autographs, or all of it. So, and again, I'm not doing this for resale or what it's going to be worth 10, 15, 20 years from now. I'm doing it because I like it. So there are certain things I came across in my path for whatever reason that got me going. Now, to give you, for example, these two bats here. This is a George Brett bat, autographed with a date on it, that the guys from the souvenir store, Eddie, Bobby, and all the guys, my 30th birthday, they got me this one, which I thought was kind of cool because it had a lot of pine tar on it. And if you all know the Brett story with the pine tar, that's key. And they also got me this Wade Boggs autograph. These are game bats, obviously. So these were gifts. So I kind of got off into the bat kick a little bit. So that's how got me going there. This one here, if you remember Orlando Cepeda, the first Red Sox DH, 1973. If you want to try to swing this baby later on, it is the heaviest bat I have ever picked up in my life. I don't know how this guy ever swung this, but he must have been incredibly strong.
We're back. That was kind of a shock.
I'm Max Kleiman for YBA Sports.
Giving young people the chance and the training to be young broadcasters. That's how YBA started.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Back Talk Entertainment.
So Ashley, why are businesses using Facebook?
Well, the really cool thing about Facebook,
Over 370 hours of live student-produced webcast, including the first professional sports event broadcast entirely by kids. That is only the beginning of the story of Young Broadcasters of America.
the parents understand the importance of oral communication in this world of texting. So we teach Generation Text to talk.
This is the oral communications piece that nobody else has.
With a whole generation communicating more through technology than face-to-face, Young Broadcasters of America has created a curriculum for voice articulation that is now available at YBA Online.
IPI stands for inflection, pronunciation, intonation, and enunciation.
Connecting professional broadcasters with young people has given the next generation of TV talent an edge in communication in school and in life.
What opportunity do you have as a kid to get in front of a camera, to get behind a mic, to learn how to actually do it? This is the only opportunity he's ever had.
Justin, it's good to be sitting right next to you.
Nice to be here.
They learned everything. They learned behind the camera, in front of the camera, editing, just so much poise, and they really enjoyed it. It was an awesome experience.
Perhaps best of all, the young people who train with Young Broadcasters of America have a blast creating a new kind of cool.
Oh! And that's how we do it at YBA.
Once I was introduced to the whole broadcasting world a year and a half ago, I realized this is what I want to do.
You bring the personality within your heart out onto the set, and you show everyone who you really are. Now, his old friends are helping to honor Ace Bailey's name.
He was a very important part of our team, but more importantly, he was a great friend to all of us.
YBA builds confidence, develops communication skills so necessary in life. Now, YBA is bringing its training to adults and the corporate community, which is desperate to undo what technology has done.
After 75, the World Series, if you remember Freddie Lynn smashing into the wall trying to make a catch and then being bruised, after the World Series, they stripped down, it's still there, they stripped down the lower half of the wall and they padded it. Well, the D'Angelo's got a lot of the scrap metal that came off the wall, and who's on first, the bar downstairs, they have a replica of the left field wall in the bar. So there was a lot of extra pieces, so I asked them if I could have one. I mean, can you imagine? I just walked out with a sheet of metal that, what's it worth? It's a sheet of metal with green paint on it. To me, it's worth $1 million, but it's just a sheet of metal with green paint. But that's part of the left field wall. I mean, who has that?
Well, so, I know Phil has a bunch of it. he's got it cut up in little pieces and put in frames.
Well, and he's selling it.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's fine. But to me, this is, people say, well, what's your favorite piece? This didn't cost me anything. And this is my favorite piece in it because who has this? I mean, some people got little squares or rectangles. I get this big piece of sheet metal.